very aggressive. A new day. And you won't be pushed around. Take it down.
Hiya! This is going to be my second video. It's kind of out of order a little bit, and the reason for that is I've already started building because I've already filmed this once. However, when I've looked at it, come to start trying to edit it, the way I filmed it's really poor, to be honest. I'm not happy with it. So once I started my build and I'd got sort of used to this top-down format with the camera still, I realised this is the way I should film everything, to be honest, unless you need to see my face. Well, nobody ever needs to see my face, but you know, if I'm filming something where you don't need to see stuff, you may as well look at my face, haven't you? So, like I said, I've never done this stuff before, nor have I never done any filming before, so all of it is new, and I'm learning the filming bit and the YouTube bit as well, so bear with me, basically. So I'm filming my stuff, basically. I'm going to show you my stuff. Like I said, I've already filmed this once, but I'm filming it again. Now, because I've already started my build, some of my parts are in my build, so you'll be seeing some of the parts already built, if you know what I mean, and then you'll see the build in the next video. So just bear in mind it's slightly out of order, but yeah, there's no way around that, unfortunately. So I'll start with the least exciting things, and that's the tools, the associated stuff that I've had to buy just to get set up, because I'm not one for tools, so I didn't have anything really, so I've had to buy the things that I need to be able to build drones. So first off, the stuff I've bought is all like what I've been advised on various, like, you know, part of my research basically. I looked to see what people advised to buy. So the first thing they advised to buy is a selection of silicone wire in different gauges. So that's what I got. So I got gauges, black and red, by the way, just in case, because obviously positive and negatives. But I imagine in some cases you probably use more of the black than the red. But anyway, this is gauge 14 gauge, black and red in 14 gauge. And then I've got 18 gauge in black and red. Now I think the 18 gauge is like motor wire thickness. The thickest stuff is basically for batteries, connecting to batteries, lipos, whatever you want to call them. But I do have some really thin wire, which is 24, 26, 28 and 30 gauge. It's just a massive roll of the stuff. Really thin stuff. Now that is for the real intricate stuff on the board, and there's loads of that. So there you go, loads of wires. Not particularly exciting, but you know, we've got to start somewhere. So that's that. Obviously, what is an electronics job without tapes? Various tapes. So I've got 3 different tapes here. Obviously you know what that is, that's insulation tape. Anybody knows what insulation tape is? Just a standard electrical tape. Gone with some yellow. This is double-sided tape. Now it's difficult to tell what you're buying when you're online on that Banggood website. I ended up with about 3 rolls of this stuff. I thought I was only buying 1 roll, and I thought it was going to be thicker. Double-sided tape is for sticking things. Obviously for sticking things, it's a really stupid thing to say. What I mean is sticking the receiver, the radio receiver, to the top of the stack, because it doesn't bolt in, doesn't fasten in with nuts like everything else does. It's just loose. But you don't want it knocking about inside your quad, do you? So that's that. This is some heat tape. Now, I only ever saw one build use this, but anybody who's built computers or has opened up a computer, particularly laptops, you'll always see this in laptops. If you use insulation tape on a part that's going to get hot, it's just not going to work, is it? So you use heat tape instead. There you go, that's that. So onto some tools. I got myself a selection of pliers and snips. So these just came in a pack together. Obviously they're standard pliers for grabbing and pulling. These are similar but smaller, and they've also got the bit of a cutting tool on them there, as you can see, or a wire stripper. Probably won't use that because I do have a separate wire stripper I'll show you in a bit. These are just, I guess, for grabbing hold of things, and I don't know. I can't think of where I might use those. And these are obviously wire snips. You know, they're for cutting wires off. So there you go. 4 different types of pliers, snips, whatever you want to call it. And then I've got here, not opened it yet. I've got here wire stripper. So the wire goes in these different. Obviously, that's for the different gauges of wire. Put your wire through, strip it. There you go. So that's that. Got myself some set of like hex drivers, or what you might call Allen keys. So these have got Allen key ends on them. But imagine trying to use the bottom, the quad. A lot of the screws on the quad are Allen keys, Allen key or hex, whatever you want to call it, heads. Now imagine trying to actually use Allen keys. It would be a massive pain in the backside. So this is good because it's got a proper handle on it. It's much easier to use, and it's relatively small because drones are not big. So there's the hex, different sizes of hex heads. That's just a standard flat head but small. That's just a standard crosshead but small. And these are bolt heads. Again, hex, but they're obviously for bolts. So they go like almost like sockets, you know, socket set, but obviously it's just a hand socket. So 2 of them. That's them. I'll keep them to one side. I'm going to be using them in a bit because like I said, I'm going to do some building after this. This is Loctite. So this is for when you put your motor nuts in, your motor screws. You don't want basically your motors are going to be they're going to vibrate quite a lot. So you don't want your motor screws working loose in flight, and obviously any come out, you could be losing a motor, and that's not going to be good, is it? You know. So you use Loctite. It's not a permanent lock type thing. It's just, they just call it thread locker. So you just apply some of this to the thread when you put it in, and when it dries, it stops the thread coming loose. Basically, it stops the screw coming loose. But you can get it out with a screwdriver. Obviously, it just takes a bit more hammer to get it out, but it's not a problem. So that's that. That's another one of them pliers. This is a selection of heat shrinks. So if you don't know what heat shrinks are, well, when you connect 2 wires together, you solder 2 wires together like that, you put a piece of heat shrink, this stuff, different thicknesses. You can see that hopefully you can see on the camera there. This slides over the wires that you've connected together, and then with a heat gun, I do have a heat gun. I already had a heat gun anyway. It's my girlfriend's heat gun. It's a modelling heat gun, and I've used it for anybody who plays hockey has a heat gun anyway, because you use a heat gun for changing heads on your sticks and things like that. So basically what you do is you put this over the 2 wires, then you use a heat gun on it, and it shrinks. That's why it's called heat shrink. It shrinks, and it obviously stops any shorts. That's heat shrink. What else? Blue tack. Now everybody knows what blue tack is, but in this case, for building drones, this was a tip I got off one of the YouTube sites I go on, YouTube channels I go on, UAV Futures it's called. He suggested using it for holding small parts down when you're soldering, and yeah, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? It's not something you necessarily think of, but particularly the ESCs, which are quite small things, and you mount them on the arms of the quad. This is going to be perfect for holding them ESCs down to the frame while you solder. So there you go, some blue tack. Last one of the tools to show you. Everyone knows what these are. They're just cable ties, aren't they? But different colours. That's that. Oh no, one more thing, obviously, that I forgot about. Well, it's a collection of things actually, all together in one. You wouldn't get far with that soldering iron, would you? So there you go. I bought myself a soldering iron. It is temperatures settable with this little dial here. I hope you can see that, because that might be a little bit low actually. Yeah, it's changeable with that dial here. This is a solder suck. That's just a bog standard craft knife. This is just an electrician screwdriver. These are just different heads for the soldering iron. This is some flux, so probably wouldn't need this, but flux is in solder. This is solder, by the way, so it's called rosin core solder. So within the solder there is flux already in the solder, but if you was ever soldering, all this stuff's new that I'm going to be soldering, so I probably wouldn't need that. But if you're soldering something that's old and a bit oxidised, a bit rusty maybe, you might want to apply some solder, because solder doesn't stick. Some flux, sorry, because solder doesn't stick too well. So I'm told, I've never soldered in my life, but some solder doesn't stick too well to rusty or oxidised metals. Oh my god, my memory's gone blank. What the hell do you call these? Tweezers. Tweezers, of course they're tweezers, yes. These are tweezers. Two different sorts. All this came together. I purposely picked this set because it had these extra things in that I wanted. So yeah, tweezers. I was going to like tweezers for a fiddly job. And then this is a multimeter. Again, I don't know how to use a multimeter, but again, I picked this set because it had a multimeter in, and it was something that was suggested that you would need. Obviously for testing currents, but how it actually works, I'm not sure. This is just a stand for the soldering iron. So that's that lot. So that's my tools. So the next comes the drone parts themselves. So as I might have mentioned earlier in the video, I did start building before, because I already filmed this video once, didn't like it, filming it again. So because of that, some of the parts are actually already built. This happens to be the frame, which is this. Now the frame is obviously in pieces before, but I've already built some of it. So this is the bottom of the frame. And the motors, which I've already mounted. Okay, so those are motors. And I also have some motor protectors, which I've put in for when I no doubt crash. So these, I probably won't end up using these because I've already got some on. You can see these four things here. These are, if anybody's built computers before, you'll recognise these, but they're usually metal in computers. So these are standoffs. So these are just to separate your board from the bottom. So these are a collection of those in different sizes. But I've not opened it because I ended up using the ones that came with the frame, because they look like they were going to be okay anyway. So that's those. What else? So this is, if I can get it open, this is what we call the flight controller, and also it is the what we call the VTX, or video transmitter. That's what VTX means. Video transmitter all in one. This is the flight controller is the central brain, or in a computer what you would call a motherboard, but obviously a hell of a lot smaller than in a computer. And it's also the, like I said, the video transmitter. And the video transmitter is what sends your video back to your FPV goggles that you're wearing, so you can fly this thing first person. That's what FPV means, first person view. So this thing is called a pigtail, and this goes in this little socket here, and then it stays in if you put it in properly. They're nice, these connectors, because it means it can switch around like that, which you won't need to in flight. It's just that it means it's less likely to break away and things like that if it does get tugged on, because it will get tugged on if it crashes, and it will crash. So it's me at the end of the day. I am going to crash it. So this is a buzzer, and you should be able to, if your quad goes down and you don't know where it is, you should be able to activate the buzzer, which obviously makes a noise, and you can zoom in on the sound with your ears and find your quad. So that's what that's for. This is an XTC60 connector. It's designed to just sit on top of that. Obviously it gets soldered on, sits on there, and then your battery connects to that. In my case, going by advice and research from other YouTube channels, I am not going to mount that directly to here. What I'm going to do instead is connect some wire to these and have the connector here somewhere. The reason for that is because in a crash, if this is tight to here and the battery gets jettisoned, it's going to rag this. So as the battery comes off, it's going to rag this connector, and the worst thing that could happen if you rag the connector, hopefully the connector will break. That's no issue, I can replace the connector. But the worry is, if it rags the connector, it breaks the board. And if it breaks the board, that's an expensive replacement. Probably the most expensive part. I don't want to replace that. So by connecting it with a wire, hopefully it will just rip the wire off or something like that, because basically it will be a much, in a way, it'll be a weaker connection, which in this instance is good because it won't break, hopefully it won't break the board. That's the idea anyway. But what we'll probably use is one of these other XTC60 connectors, because I got a load of these XTC60 connectors. This one came with the flight controller. And the great thing about these ones, they get great reviews anyway, for being better quality. But also that's both ends of the XTC60 connector, by the way. So that is the end that would connect to the battery, from the battery, and connects to the end that's on the quad, like that. Yeah, and they get good reviews that they fit together nice and snug, but also they have these little covers that can't seem to get on right now, but there you go. So when the wire's on, it covers up the wires nice, so it covers up your soldering joints. So again, another reason, another thing to stop you getting potential shorts and things like that. So I'm probably going to use one of these because I just really like them. So that's that. This is the FPV camera. So this is going to go at the front here in a mount, and that will obviously connect up to the board, and then the board sends the video to my goggles so I can see where I'm going. So that's that goes at the front there. I also have an antenna out for this one. There we go. So there we go, there's an antenna there, so that's an antenna that connects into here. When the quad's complete, there's a mounting hole for this, and that'll sit out the back like that. So you can almost see how it's going to, you can see already how it's going to come together. So that's that. And what else have we got to show you? Yeah, of course, ESCs. So look, because I've got one out, because that's my next part of my build is mounting these ESCs and doing a bit of soldering. So there you go, there's an ESC. Now the ESC sits between the motor, you have one on each arm. You can get all-in-one ESCs which go in the stack, but in this build I'm using separate ESCs, one for each arm, and they sit on the arms like that. These motor wires connect up to them. Yeah, one to each terminal like that. You wire them straight if you want your motor to spin clockwise, and you cross wire them if you want your motor to spin anti-clockwise. And if you want your motor to spin anti-clockwise, you basically just swap those two over like that. This is the receiver, so this is what talks to my radio, or rather what accepts the commands from my radio. So this connects into the flight controller, and then these come out here somewhere with the quad. Now what I do have for these as well, these, I'll just pull one out for now, because this is probably the one I'm going to use. I got these, they're basically just straws, but they're bendy, and they've got these little rubber things on the end. I'm probably going to cut this one in half, and then what I'll do is I'll feed them out like that, and those will house the, they'll house these to keep them safe, so that the if a crash and a prop gets bent, it doesn't damage these, because this is pretty hard. It's unlikely that that's going to get damaged. If these were loose, they probably would get damaged. Some props. Guess the colour? Yes, they are yellow. Basically I'm going with the theme of gold and yellow. So it's pretty much all the no, missed the most important thing. The radio. Here's my radio. So, switch this on. Oh, it's going to cry now. Place all the switches in their up position and lower the throttle. There we go. It's a safety thing, I guess, so that you don't have your throttle up when your arm, in which case your quad will try and go straight away. Once you have your throttle down. So So this is the radio. I like this because it's very much, it's obviously got the feel of a, it's called the Turnigy Evolution. It's got the feeling of an Xbox remote, you know, which obviously is familiar to me, that's why I chose it. It was also recommended by, again, some of the YouTube channels that I watch. It was either going to be this or a Tyrannus QX7, which is a bit more of a bulky thing and it's a bit more expensive, but it's got more features on it. But from what I could gather, this has got more than enough for, you know, it's not great for if you're going to fly planes and other models, but for a quad, which are relatively simple as far as inputs go, or what you might call, or what they call channels. This is fine. So, and it's nice and light, and it's mobile, and it's got this cover, nice cover. So if I throw it in a bag, the last thing you want is these are called gimbals, by the way. You don't want these gimbals getting damaged, so that's why you cover it up. Yeah. Also, it has a USB connection here, and the reason for that is you can plug it into the computer and use it for controlling your simulator. I have a simulator, it's called Liftoff. I had a little go on it, I'm not very good at it, which is very worrying, so I need to spend a lot more time on that, and I'm hoping to do another video with me, with some footage of me playing a bit of Liftoff, so you can check out my flying skills, which are non-existent right now. But you know, this is the point of this, I'm learning, isn't it? So, I'll turn that off. So that's all the kit basically. That's the kit. So the next stuff to show you is the associated stuff like battery. I'll get that now. Okay, so the last stuff to show you is all the associated stuff. So the most obvious thing is a battery, or what I call LiPo. So I have 4 of these so far. I'm sure I'll be buying many more over time. This is what you fly with. This is a 1300 mAh battery, and it's a 4S battery. Okay, this is what you charge it with. This is called the balance lead. So at this point, I may as well show you the charger, haven't I? So firstly, when I first ordered everything, I ordered this charger here because it was cheap. It's called the Charsoon DC4S. I've not owned it, but you can see what it's like on the back, on the top here. Just looks like that little lid box, and you plug this thing into it, and it charges. However, after ordering this and batteries, I was reading up on LiPo batteries, and I read a few scare stories that basically explain that LiPo batteries can be a bit volatile, and you really need to take care of them. And you also need to make sure that you've got a decent charger and that you watch it at all times, things like that. Don't leave it unattended and what have you. Anyway, I started getting a bit paranoid, and I did a little bit more research, and I found that people had some issues with this charger. Some people had said it had popped on them, some people had said it exploded, but I think that's probably a bit strong. What's probably happened is it popped. Anyway, I didn't like the sound of that anyway. I've got a little boy, 18-month-old, and you know, at the end of the day, it's a hobby, I want to enjoy it, but I don't want to put anybody at risk. So I decided I was going to abandon this one and buy a better one that's got some really good reviews. So this isn't going to get used, and I went with this one instead. This is called the Sky RC B6 IMAX charger. This is so good that there are several copies of it available, because it's so good that because this is what happens with the drone parts market. Everything gets cloned. It's called cloning, and the really good stuff always gets cloned. So this is the original this is the actual original, the proper one. So I have opened this anyway because I do intend to use it. So open this up. Well, you wouldn't think I've been in this before, would you? I have. Come on, what's wrong with you? Ah, that one comes open first, that's why. But it comes to something when you don't even know how to get in a cardboard box, innit? You know what I mean? Doesn't take much of a brain to get in a cardboard box, does it? But, you know, obviously, I'm struggling with it. Right, so, there you go. So, the wires connect here. You have to buy the adapter separately. This is it. Now what I've also got is something called a balance board. Obviously you can see this allows me to charge 4 at once, safely I might add. I got this one because it's all fused and everything, so if anything does go wrong, you know, it's fused here, and also each individual port is fused as well. So you know, you can't go wrong with that, can you? Now to go one step further, talking about batteries, that's about these things. These are called LiPo guards. They're basically just an envelope, but the idea of them is when you're charging your batteries, you put them in these things and they're fireproof, so if anything goes wrong, everything will be contained inside here. They're safe. This one is the same again, it's a fireproof bag, but it's just a bag to carry in. So the idea of that is I'll put my charged batteries in here, take them out, use them, put them back in here when they're discharged, and they'll come back into these bags for storage and charging when it's time to charge them again. Now, really exciting thing. This wasn't here when I first filmed this video. Like I said, I'm filming it again, but it's here now. These are my goggles. Cool, eh? These are the Eachine EV100 goggles. So these are what I will just move that up just to make sure you can see. These are what I'm going to use when I'm flying. These are what, so I can see. I can't connect them up because I need the quad to be built in order to test them with and everything. But you wear these on your face. I don't know if you better to. And these, I don't actually know if I'm under the camera here. I hope I am. And these things are where the antennas connect. So this is the DVD recorder, DVR recorder for these. So this connects into the goggle because these don't have a DVR recorder built in. Just in case you don't know what a DVR recorder is, it's to record your flights, so that and it records onto a little SD card, so that you can play them back later. But more importantly, they do have a function for finding a lost quad as well. So if your quad goes down, you can actually view your DVR footage there and then, so that you can see. You know, you go to where you think your quad is, it ain't there. It's probably in a tree or something. So you can play back the video and think, right, which way did it fall? You know, and see the things around, and basically figure out where your quad is. So that's what that's for. But also, I'm hoping I'll get some nice footage to show you guys, won't I? Well, I say nice footage. It'll probably be big footage of lots of crashes, but you know, probably fun to watch. Anyway, until I absolutely destroy the thing, and then there's no more footage, is there? But anyway, I'm being a bit negative there. I might be awesome. You never know. Yeah, right. So that's pretty much everything, I think. So there you go. There's all my stuff. The next video will obviously be build video. All right. Nice one. Cheers.